Using AI to make your game isn't cheating, it's worse. It gives you the illusion of competence while you stay fragile as soon as something breaks. If you ever felt that guilty, I didn't really earn this feeling, you already know. Today I'll show you exactly how to use AI without sabotaging your fundamentals. So as I said, you probably have this guilty feeling when you use the AI, where you think, well, I can't really do this without the AI, or I didn't really earn this. So you already know it's not good, but we can't really call it cheating because it's not really cheating, we're not like in school. But it gives us the illusion of competence. It gives us the illusion that we actually can do more things that we actually can. And this term, illusion of competence, that's a very known term in learning research. So let's break it down so that we can understand it better. The illusion of competence is basically when you have so much recognition about something, but not the understanding that you think you actually understand the thing better than you actually do. So you get this false sense that you can understand things when in reality you can only recognize it. So how does this tie to the AI? For example, when you use the AI to make scripts for you, you can basically recognize, okay, this is the moment script, this section does this, but you can't really apply it in a real world. So for example, if you didn't have the AI in front of you to make this script for you, then you wouldn't be able to make the system yourself, because even though you can recognize it, you can like look at the AI code and you can think, okay, this is the movement, this rotates, this jumps, this does whatever. So even though you can recognize it, the fact that you never understood it in the first place, because you never used it practically, you never struggled with the thing, makes it so that you aren't going to be able to use it practically. You can't use it without AI. So if, for example, the AI website is down, you can't use the AI, you won't be able to do any of the things that you prompt the AI for right now. And that's actually a problem. Like when you are more advanced, this is not a problem because then you already know the foundations. But when you are a beginner, then you need to know the most important fundamentals. And that's going to mean that you can't just build the best games that you think you could possibly make right now. Because if you focus on building the perfect game over learning right now, you aren't going to make the good games in the future because you never learn the foundations. And to actually use the AI well and be able to be critical of the AI, be able to make creative games and not just make the games that the AI gives you, then you at least need to know the 20% of the foundational knowledge in code before you use the AI more in the future. It's extremely important that you nail the 20% of the foundational code before you use the AI. And that's because 20% of your coding knowledge is going to give you 80% of the benefit. And this is so exaggerated when we have AI, because to actually use the AI and be critical, be able to use the AI in an effective way, we need to know the 20% of the foundational coding knowledge. Everything after that, we don't really need to know, because the AI, it can optimize things for us, it can do all these advanced things for us, but we need to know the foundations to be critical of the AI. Just to summarize this point, everything that doesn't learn you the fundamentals right now, if you are a beginner, it's going to be inefficient use over time. I'm not saying you're cheating, I'm not saying it's completely wrong, but it's very inefficient use of your time if you actually take game development a little seriously and you actually want to make good games, not these AI slot projects. Because if you only do the easiest thing possible, then you're not going to stand out in the future when AI becomes better, because you never have any advantage over other people that just get into game development and they just use the AI 100%. You need to have some sort of advantage over the other people that just use AI, and just ideas aren't going to be good enough here. You actually need to be more efficient, and to be more efficient, you at least need to know foundational code before you use the AI. So now I've told you not to use AI, but to really get value out of this video, I need to tell you how you're actually going to learn the fundamentals the right way. Because right now you're probably sitting there like, okay, I can use the AI as a teacher. That's such a good idea. I'm going to learn so much. And then I can just use AI. No, don't do that. There's actually one specific way that you need to learn, one specific framework, which we're going to go over. And it's not going to be just watch this tutorial. It's not going to be watch this tutorial, use this AI as a teacher, prompt, whatever. It's actually not going to be like the common knowledge that you hear. So I've spent hours researching, and in my own journey, I figured out this is the thing that learns me the most when I was beginning game development. And even now it learns me so much when I use this framework and I use these methods. And it's also proven by learning science. So let me share it with you right now. The core idea and the most important thing that you need to remember is that to actually learn something, we need to struggle. We need to have a struggle to learn. I can very confidently say this based on all the hours that I've experimented myself and in learning research in general. You only learn when things are hard. You only learn when you struggle. That's not an exaggeration. You only learn when things are hard. And tutorials, that's not hard. AI, that's not hard. Following these step-by-step blueprints to actually click this button, like do this, click this button, whatever, make this animation. When you just follow these step-by-step guides, it's not hard, you don't have any struggle. And because of that, you aren't going to learn anything. And this ties back to what I called recognition earlier. When you're watching a tutorial, for example, or you're using AI to learn your code or do these easy things, your brain is just in recognition mode. You can get the explanation of the code, you can look at the code, you can think you're understanding it, and your brain is going to think, okay, this does this line, okay, this line of code does this line of code does this, I know this now, I can understand it. But this ties back to what I said before with the AI code. You can't even apply it practically after you have got the explanation, because to actually learn to use something practically, we need to first use it practically. And we need to struggle to actually achieve that result. And the reason why struggle works so well, it's the only way we're actually going to learn. I promise the only way is that struggle, it creates problems, it creates confusion, and it creates fiction, which is really, really good. And you're probably sitting there scratching your head thinking, well, why do we need struggle? Why is this confusion, struggle, whatever good? Well, that's because we force our brain to solve problems, and in turn that forces your brain to form new connections and store it in a way that you can actually reuse later. And this is what we call to get understanding of a thing. This is not the recognition that you get from tutorials or AI, where you actually think you can understand the things. This is real understanding. Real understanding comes when you actually struggle to actually finding the solution yourself. And this is very general learning things. But how do we actually apply this to game development? Well, to apply it to game development, we need to build things. And that doesn't mean you just should make an MMO RPG like Ark Survival or whatever massive game you can think of. That doesn't mean you should have that as a goal. Your goal should be to make small mechanics, but you should restrict your information throughout the way. So for example, you should just struggle with one line of code at a time, and then your goal should be to make a simple mechanic completely by yourself. That should be your goal. But when you can't do it, that's when you actually should seek information. And when I say seek information, you shouldn't watch a tutorial about the entire thing. Just Google the specific line of code that you struggle with. So take it one line of code at a time, and then slowly struggle away and slowly move towards the complete mechanic that you set as your goal. And the lines of code and the mechanics, they shouldn't be massive, super hard things. They should just be desirably difficult, would you call it? Or in other words, it should be a manageable struggle. So it should be maybe 50-60% chance that you can actually achieve it if you just have enough time. But once in a while, it's actually going to be too hard for you because you've never done it before, and you can guess your way through it. So you need to search on Google, and that's completely fine. The important thing is that you actually struggle and you tried. That's the important thing, not that you actually achieved it yourself. Okay, that's awesome. I'm so hyped for you actually learning this, because this is what I wish I had before I wasted years in tutorial hell, wasting time on watching tutorials. I really, really wish I could just show this video to my younger self. When I first got started in game development, it would be really helpful, but I didn't. I wasted years, but hopefully you don't have to waste years like I did. Hopefully you're going to follow the framework that I'm going to give you now, which I've spent years researching and figuring things out. This is based on my personal experience in multiple years, multiple games, and it's also based on learning science. So this framework is going to be extremely beneficial for you. But before that, I just want to say that the principle you just learned, that's exactly what Smart Indie is built upon. Smart Indie gives you a clear structure where you always have this manageable struggle that we talked about, so that you can actually learn the foundations and quickly be able to use these AI tools just to speed things up. Inside of Smart Indie, you're not going to make the game that I made before and then I broke it down into different steps. You're not going to follow the specific buttons that I click. I'm going to tell you specifically what you're going to do each week, so that you always know what you're going to struggle with and build next. So you quickly learn the foundation of code first, if you don't already know that. And then I'll walk you through all the different steps all the way through releasing your first game, so that you aren't scratching your head confused about what you're going to do next. You're always going to have this step-by-step plan that you're going to follow to release your first game in only 60 days. And as a guarantee I'll give to you right now, if you join Smart Indie with the link below, I'll personally beta test your game, and then I'll give you a short video. I can post it on YouTube, I can just send it to you, whatever you want, so that your first game that you're going to release within only 60 days from now is going to be completely awesome. So lock in your first game with the link below. Either way, I have to tell you the step-by-step plan that you need to follow if you actually want to learn. This is what Smart Indie is going to be built upon, but you can apply this today to start learning. So what is this magical framework that I spent years perfecting and hours of research creating? It's going to be this. It's the struggle, build, repeat framework. And we've already covered the struggle, so I'm not going to spend that much time on it. But just in short, what does the struggle here mean in practice? Because this is the most important part of the framework. Very, very practical. The struggle is going to mean that you should restrict your information. I kind of like went into this before when I talked about Google, but let's just clarify it right now. So what I want to do is struggle with the specific line of code at a time. And when you encounter a problem, I want you to struggle with the thing for around 10 to 20 minutes before you go on Google and you search for that specific thing. And when you search for the thing on Google, I don't want you to search for like the AI summary on Google. I don't want you to search for a tutorial. I want you to use official documentation or a discussion forum online like Stack Overflow, Reddit, Quora. And why is that? Well, it all comes down to the struggle. You should even struggle when finding the solution yourself, because that's going to force you to actually implement and think about how you can implement this line of code that you didn't know before, how you can implement this line of code into your specific mechanic and your specific script that you're creating right now. So you're going to have this solution here, like the line of code that you have, you know it's here, you have people like explaining the line of code, but the system and example that you found on Google is going to be slightly different from the result that you want to have, very likely. And you're not going to copy the entire system, just this one line of code into your existing system. So you need to figure out. So you still have the solution there. There's nothing like you can figure out if you just had enough time, but you just need to figure it out. That's the thing. But as I said, spend around 10-20 minutes struggling yourself, trying to figure it out yourself. The next line of code that you're trying to make to complete your mechanic, 10-20 minutes before you go on Google and you search for the solution. So what does the build mean here? The build basically means that if you actually achieve the thing that you struggle with, then you're obviously just going to like implement it into your system. But if you can do it, that's basically what we talked about with the struggle. That's where you go on Google and you find the thing and you paste it in. And the repeat here basically means that you should repeat this all the way until you have the one mechanic that you set your goal as. And then you should repeat just making small mechanics all the way until you can make like a few small prototypes, which are just a few mechanics put together. And then you can make an entire game. But if you want the entire like step-by-step blueprint for when you should start making experiments, when you should start making prototypes, when you should start making your first game, preparing for your first game, all these different things, just remove all the guesswork, be 100% guaranteed that you will release in 60 days, then you can join Smartini with the link below. That's where I talk about all these things in a video course, which is multiple hours long, so you have all the information that you would possibly need. Either way, I think this video helped you a ton. I'm really excited for you learning this information. This is the information that I wish I had when I was younger, just getting started. And I would also join Smartini if I were in your position, but I'm just saying you don't need to, but I think it's really worth it for you. I made it specifically for beginners in your position. So if you don't want to waste more time and you just want to like be 100% guaranteed that you will release, then Smartini, subversion below, it's the best way to get there. Thank you for watching.